everyone. This is D. Jeff Cowan coming to you from Jeff Cowan's Pro Talk and my podcast entitled Right Service, Write Your Own Paycheck, The Path to Making $100,000 a year if you're a service writer. Welcome back, and I thank you for coming back and subscribing. I appreciate you telling your friends about it because somebody's telling somebody because, boy, our audience is growing and growing and growing and growing all over the place, and I appreciate it. People are coming here because they're finding that the information I have is spot on. If you want to be the best you can be when it comes to writing service, you've found the podcast to listen to. If you've never been a service advisor, but you're possibly looking to get into it, this is the podcast to listen to because you'll find out exactly what it's like. Well, I've been getting a lot of emails from people, a lot of texting, and one question I've been getting is how can I find out more information about you? And that's easy. Go to automotiveservicetraining.com, automotiveservicetraining.com, got all the information there. And I'm getting questions just generally about how to write service. Well, this week I got one from a gentleman by the name of George out of Michigan, and he wanted to know this. He said, Jeff, you'd made a comment, and several times I've seen you in workshops. You've made comments on here about how you love multi-point inspections. As a matter of fact, Jeff, you said you wouldn't consider having a shop that didn't have some type of multi-point inspection working or a system in it. But you also said that most people that get them aren't successful with them, and I'm one of those people. I was told by the vendor that supplied mine to me that if I did this, I'd get a 5/10 increase to maybe an hour increase, which is exactly what you said. But after having it now for several months, we've got nothing. What are we doing wrong? Well, George, this is a great question. I appreciate you writing in and asking it, so I'm going to give you the solutions today. But before I do, I'm going to tell you a story. It's one of the first stories I remember from being a little boy. I must have been 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, and I had a bicycle and had little training wheels on it. But my cousin Scott, who lived right behind our house, he had a big boy's bike, right? And it didn't have training wheels on it. And every day that he would come over for what seemed like the longest time, all I would do is admire that bike because, boy, he could ride it. He was cool. It didn't have training wheels. I had to have that bike. But my parents would not buy me a new bike because they said they didn't have the money. Well, as we continued to grow, Scott grew to a point where that bike was too small for him, and he said, hey, look, you know what you need to do is if you buy my bike, I can get the new bike, and then we would both be cool because I would have a bigger bike and you would have a bigger bike that didn't have training wheels because, man, when you don't have training wheels, you're really cool, and that's all my cousin Scott, who I thought was the king of everything, that's all he had to say because now I had to have that bike. As a matter of fact, I remember running inside and grabbing my mom and said, look, Scott wants to sell his bike, and I really, really want it. Can I get it? So my mom, after talking to Scott, discovered that if she bought this one for just fractions of what on the dollar, that he'd get his bike, then I could get this cooler bike, and everybody would win, so she decides to get it. But she also told Scott, you know what, if I buy it from you, then you have to show him how to ride it. Because Scott told me, again, if I got the bike, that I would be cool, right? So my mom gives him the money, she goes inside, and Scott basically just takes me down the hill just about a block and a half, down the street about a block and a half where there's a hill. He said, you know what, because he didn't want to help me, right? He said, you know what, it's easy to ride a bike. Just go to the top of the hill there and kind of lean your bike over, lift up your feet, and go right down the hill, and that's how you'll learn how, by the time you get to the bottom, you'll learn how to ride that bike. So that's exactly what I did. I went up to the top of the hill as Scott rode off, walked back home so he could go get his new bike, and I stood on the top of that hill, and I push off, and I go down. I probably don't go more than 10 or 20 yards. When I lose control, I start flipping, and let me tell you something, it hurt. So I took the bike, I pushed it back home, set it in the garage where it's set for 2 or 3 months. Now, the reason I did that is because what he told me would work didn't work, and it hurt. So I let it sit there for 2 or 3 months, and I swore I would never touch the bike again. But my mom, who had invested money in the bike, her hard-earned money, didn't want the bike just to sit. So she asked me why I would not ride it, and I told her what happened. And so she said, well, look, here's what's going on here. You're going to use the bike because I'm going to take you out front, and I'm going to ride the bike, and I'm going to show you how to ride the bike. And within an hour or two, you'll be just like the big boys on a big bike in the neighborhood, and you'll be cool. And she took me out front. She showed me how to use it, and I never looked back. As a matter of fact, bike riding became one of my favorite childhood things. To this day, I still ride bikes. Now, why do I tell you that story? What could it possibly have to do with multi-point inspections? Well, here's why, and here's why I'm talking about this. Okay, it's because many of you were told by your vendor that sold you the multi-point inspection thing that this was the silver bullet. You too would be cooler if you had this. Many of you were told that If you did this, you would get an instant 5/10 increase on your customer paid hours per report, or maybe even as much as an hour. Your survey scores would go up, your customer retention would go up, and nothing happened, right? And so since nothing happened right away, because you felt defeated, because the way they told you to do it was basically go to the top of the hill and just kind of push yourself over. You were getting instructions from somebody that really didn't know how, that didn't really care whether or not you were successful or not. They made the sale. And I know that sounds harsh, but I really believe that. And or they believe what they're telling you is the right way, but it's the wrong way. Okay, it's the wrong way. And so you take the multi-point inspection, you push it off to the side, and then somewhere down the road, the manager, the general manager of the business comes over and says, look, we're investing all this money in the multi-point inspection, but I'm not seeing any increases. What's going on? And it's just a bad scene. So what's really happening here? Well, what's really happening here is really simple. Your vendors are coming in, and most of the people that are selling these have not been service advisors, and most of the people selling these have never written service. And even if they have, they really weren't ever great salespeople, because here's the presentation. See if this doesn't sound familiar. That most people that go out and ask you and represent multi-point inspection type companies and software, here's what they tell you to do. You have your expertly trained technician do the multi-point inspection, and then you walk into a waiting room and you give it to a customer and you say, Mr. Customer, we just got through with your multi-point inspection, and as I suspected, you can see that here in the green area there's a lot of green. There are a couple of yellow things here that caught our attention that we won't need to do today, but maybe need to do it on the next visit or the one after that. Then you'll see there's 3 things that are in the red section that need to be done today, and that's what we believe. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you this. I want you to review it. And I'll give you 10 or 15 minutes because I need to go make a phone call anyway. I come back, you tell me what you want, and we'll get it done. And you know what happens? Nobody buys anything. Why? Because you're breaking so many sales rules there, it's not funny. When you give them that sheet and walk away, you surrender control. You see, you weren't there to present what they need. You weren't there to discuss the benefits. You weren't there to build value. You weren't there to hear what they had to say. You weren't there to hear their objections. You weren't there to handle their objections and close the sale. So you know what they did? Instead, they sat there and looked at it and said, well, there's no way I'm spending that kind of money. Maybe they phone shopped you. Maybe they Google shopped you. Maybe they called a friend. Maybe they asked somebody else, and you don't get the sale. Why? Because it's the wrong way. That's not selling. I don't know what it is. It's bad clerking if you ask me. Okay, so the same thing happened to you. You bought the new toy because it would be fun and make you cool, but you know your instructor did the same thing as me. Just push yourself over the hill, and there you go, right? Well, if that's the wrong way, what's the right way? And I'll tell you that here in a second, because presenting a multi-point inspection is really, really easy, and it will do what these vendors are telling you. It will get you, if you use it, an instant 5/10 increase, because I've never seen it not do that. In many places, it gets a full hour. It will help your survey scores, and it will help your customer retention, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about this. I got this book out called Write Service and Write Your Own Paycheck, and you want to get this book. You can get it at Amazon.com in either hard copy, you can get it in a paperback, or you can get it for your Kindle. Get this book. It's going to show you how to make $100,000 a year writing service. Because although the average service advisor today makes $65,000 a year, instantly putting them in the top 15% of income earners, 20% of the people writing service today are making 6 figures and above. They're in the top 8% of income earners in the United States of America, and that's where I want you to be. If you're going to be there all day long, let's maximize the opportunity, and this book will show you how to do that. Now, along with this book, I also have a virtual training program that comes with it with 10 hours of video training, has all kinds of testing in it, all kinds of stuff. Will certify you, really help you out, show you how to maximize the opportunity if you really want to be the best you can be. Now, if you're a company, buy it, give us a call. If you're an individual, you want to buy it, call me up. I got something special for you. So get this. Quit playing around. If you're going to do this job, let's do it right. I mean, why would you want to stand there and not maximize the opportunity, right? I mean, come on, it's time to go. Now, some of you written in though and said, hey, I'd like to go to one of your workshops. How do I do that? Well, as luck would have it, I've got 3 coming up. One in Chicago, one in Houston, one in Washington, D.C. It's a 2-day workshop. It's called the 6-Step Road to Service Department Service Advisor Success. And you got to get to one of these. I myself am going to be teaching these. These are exciting, and they're exciting because not only are they fun to attend, but I'm going to show you and your people how to get perfect survey scores. I'm going to show you and your people how to get customer retention above 80% within 9 months. I'm going to show you and your people how to get an instant 5/10 increase, because I'm going to give you the word tracks, the processes, the closes, the ways to handle objections, everything. Chicago, Houston, Washington, D.C., go to automotiveservicetraining.com, automotiveservicetraining.com. You can get yourself signed up there, or you can dial 1-800-248-2931, 1-800-248-2931, and anybody that answers that phone can help you with the workshop seats, help you with the book, help you with the videos, help you with anything you want, because that's the way we are at Jeff Cowden's Pro Talk. We're full service, man. But we're in the middle of a podcast here, and I promised you that I would show you how to properly present a multi-point inspection and get from it what you're supposed to get from it, because most vendors don't teach it the right way. So now you've got the multi-point inspection. Now you're going to remember from all my other training, I've said this a bunch of times, it's all about setting the customer's expectations. So keep that in mind as I'm doing this. Now there's 2 steps basically to presenting a multi-point inspection. It's really this simple. So let me walk you to it. The customer comes in, you go out, you greet them, you give them your name, you get their name, you thank them for coming in. After thanking them for coming in, you ask them what brought them in, and let's say they want an oil change, they've got a noise in the back of the vehicle. You tell them the oil change is going to be no big deal, but as it concerns the noise in the back of the vehicle, you need to ask diagnostic questions. You all know what those are: left, right, fast, slow, and the like. Immediately following the diagnostic questions on that primary concern, you then tell them, Mr. Customer, I want you to rest assured that once our expertly trained technicians get the opportunity to look at your vehicle and do a multi-point inspection, that they'll be able to get this taken care of. Don't worry about it. You reassured them in the right place. Now it's time to walk around the car. Now, when you start to walk around the car, you basically tell the customer this. Now that we've got that out of the way, what we need to do now in the next step of the process is to walk around your vehicle. And I need you to follow me as we do this. And here's why. Number one, I need to collect some numbers off the vehicle, and if you follow me, we'll do a quick visual inspection. That way, if we're to see anything out of the ordinary, we could discuss it and talk about it now and go ahead and make a decision on it. Even though I don't think we're going to find anything, Mr. Customer, this is going to save us a lot of times, because if we do, again, we can talk about it now, and I won't have to bug you throughout the day with a bunch of unnecessary phone calls, or worse, not be able to get a hold of you and only have to have you come back later this week to complete things you could have done while you were here. Now, rest assured that once our expertly trained technician gets your vehicle back in our state-of-the-art facility and gets the opportunity to look at it, they'll do a much more detailed multi-point inspection. But for right now, let's start the walk-around. So now I've set the expectation. Okay, now I've planted the seed. And so what I'm going to do as I walk around the car, when I get through the walk around, I say, Mr. Customer, it looks like your vehicle from this point is in pretty good shape. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But again, I just wanted to give you a copy. Again, I want to tell you that once we get your vehicle back in our state-of-the-art facility, we'll be doing a much more detailed inspection. And to do that, we'll be using what we call a multi-point inspection. Mr. Customer, here's a copy of the sheet we're going to work from. And you literally give them a blank copy of your multi-point inspection. You're going to see on this copy here, Mr. Customer, there's a green section, a yellow section, and a red section. I bet that you're going to have most of your things over here in green, because this car seems to be like it's in great shape. But if we see something that catches our eyes, we'll mark it down the yellow, and that will mean that we'll be doing something between the next visit and the one after that. And then if we see anything that needs to be done today, that would be in the red. But we'll do that once we get it in. Don't worry about it. We're good to go. All right. So now, you've set them up for it. You've set the expectation that we're going to do this. They've got a copy of it. Now, from this point until you call them on the phone, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, from this point until you walk in the waiting room, what are they thinking about? They're thinking about the primary concern, but they're also thinking about that multi-point inspection. And here's what they're thinking. If they do the multi-point inspection and they were to find something else, how much more money would I have to invest in the vehicle? So they're conditioning themselves for the sale. This is a big point. This is why this works. And then the second step is this easy. Then once your technician comes over and says, here's what's solving the primary concern, and here's a copy of the multi-point inspection, you then call the customer, or you walk in the waiting room and you do this. You tell them, you start out with the primary concern. Mr. Customer, just got through talking to your ASC certified technician, and he told me he's discovered what's causing that noise. He said what's causing it is this, so here's what we're going to do. Here's the benefits to allow us to do this, and this is something that we can get done today. And then you say, then you move into multi-point inspection. But also, in addition to that, Mr. Customer, I also wanted to talk to you about that multi-point inspection. And so here's what we're going to do. When performing it, your expertly trained technician discovered that you have a vehicle that is in really great shape, because out of the blank number of things we inspected, blank number of them ended up in the green, so your car is in really great shape. That said, moving to the yellow section, you will see there's one thing listed there. And it's listed there because it's not something we need to do today, but it's something that's caught our attention. Here's what it is, and here's why it's important. But we probably won't be looking at doing anything, taking any action on that until the next time you come in, or possibly the visit after that. But I just want to let you know it's on the radar so you can plan and budget for it. But moving to the final section, which is red, you will see there's one thing there. And here's what we found. Here's what it means. Here's what it does. Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's how we're going to make the repair. Here's the benefits of allowing us to do that today. So, Mr. Customer, if you take what we found in the red, plus your primary concern, the noise in the back, and add them together, it comes to $675, and that would be your total investment today. So, Mr. Customer, with that knowledge, is it okay that I go tell your expertly trained technician, you said go ahead? It's really that easy. And I think that's what's confusing to a lot of people about this multi-point inspection. They overthink it. And there's nothing to overthink. It's basic selling fundamentals. It's really just a two-step thing. You set the customer up that it's coming in the initial write-up and the initial check-in. This is what we're going to be doing. This is what it looks like. And then you thoroughly explain it to them. And so when you're making your presentation, and you want to stay there with them, because then I can hear what they're saying. I can handle objections. I can answer questions. I can build value. If you do what I just showed you, as easy as it is and as easy as it sounds, you will literally get a 5/10 increase, assuming you weren't doing this before, immediately. I've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times. It will have a positive effect on your survey scores, and it will have a positive effect on your customer retention. Yes, to answer your question, I do believe in multi-point inspections. Yes, I would never have a shop of any kind unless I had some system that had some form of multi-point inspection in it, but I would do the two most important things that follow that. One we addressed, and that is show my people how to properly present it. You come to these workshops I'm doing, I'm going to even go into more detail and show them exactly how to do it, and then you hold them accountable to do it. Multi-point inspection, I'd have one, but I'd make sure my people were doing it and make sure they're doing it the right way. And if you want to find out more about it, come to one of my workshops, because I tell you, we're going to get into this a whole lot, as well as other things, how to close sales, how to handle objections, how to make a 6-step base presentation, build rapport, all that stuff. These are fun things. So come to the workshop. I want to meet you, get the book, get the videos, do whatever you want to do. And if nothing else, if we don't do any of that stuff, come back and see me next week, because if you like this week's message, you're going to love next week's message, because I got a great one lined up for you there as well. So between now and next week, I just want to let you know my name is Jeff Cowan. I have a company called Jeff Cowan's Pro Talk. You can find me anytime at automotiveservicetraining.com. You can come and see me live in Chicago, Houston, or Washington, D.C. And between now and next week, make it a great week. Help a lot of customers, make them happy, sell a lot of product, get the survey scores, do everything, man, because I can tell you what, that's what I'm going to do. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye.